Joining us now to get a little more insight on the stakes here. They're obviously high for both the president and Kim Jong Un. Let's talk to Waleed Faris, our old friend. He's a Fox News national security and foreign policy analyst. Waleed, you have been such a sharp analyst of all of these fast-moving events, and a lot of us have been trying over the last hour as we've been having these conversations to discern what is the motive of Kim Jong Un. Why does he want to come to the table right now? And you have some thoughts on that.
Actually, this is the best question to begin with, what I call the genesis of why the dictator wanted to engage with the United States. I would even go further and say, why did he start his escalation? Remember lobbing those missiles very close to our national territory? Because there is, I'm assuming that there is a situation inside North Korea that has developed over the past 2 years, which is prompting his actions. Now, that situation, basically, he want to guarantee that he's going to come out as a winner. And probably the situation has to do with the economics of the country. It has also to do with the impossibility for him to sustain the situation. Hence, this summit, I think it's very important for him as well and his regime. And the role of China is really interesting, though it is in the background, I assume.
Yeah. Waleed, I just want to alert our viewers that on the left side of the screen you can see they're a little shaky. These are live pictures at the palace here in Singapore, where Prime Minister Lee will be receiving the President of the United States in just a couple of moments. You can see official photographers, but also some younger staffers who appear ready to get their own little snapshots of this historic moment, sort of the pregame to this big summit between President Trump and Kim Jong Un. We'll go there live if we see the president in just a moment or two. But in the meantime, I don't want to interrupt your important analysis here, Waleed. So are you saying, I know that we don't have a clear answer, but are you discerning that maybe there's intelligence about a possible coup attempts? Is it just economic problems, Kim Jong Un running out of cash? Again, without speculating, what's your sense of what, when you say you're sort of tantalizing us with the idea that something big has been happening inside the borders of North Korea over the last 2 years?
It may not be explosive in the sense of a coup or divisions. It could be simply what social scientists would call a collapse of civil society. And that is something that no dictator can really confront. What he needs really are important influx of economic aid for the regime to continue, for the institutions to continue. And those who can help him are not just the United States, but also South Korea, China, Japan. So he is heading towards an agreement with the United States. The negotiations, and what I heard from the president over the past 2 hours, his realism that we're going to expect is not an immediate overnight change, but a roadmap to that change. That's what I believe is going to be the aim of the negotiation between the two parties.
Well, Lee, let's talk about that roadmap, because as you know better than anyone, how you define denuclearization could be far different definitions from the North Korean side and from the U.S. side. If you were advising this president, what would you think he should be getting from these talks? Is it fruitful? Is it worth all of this effort if Kim Jong Un says over 5, 6, 7 years he's going to denuclearize?
I am not sure if he's going to be putting some time frame, over the next 48 hours. But if he comes out, that's the North Korean leadership, if they come up with a principle of, yes, we agree on denuclearization, yes, we agree on a peace deal, that's the most important, with South Korea, yes, we agree that we're going to have a non-belligerent treaty with the United States, that would be already a victory. Now, what would they get in return for that? A plan, an economic plan. I don't want to call it a Marshall Plan, but something like that. And the guarantor here is most likely going to be China.
And do you think, let's talk about China, let's talk about Singapore, which is the site of this summit. Many say it's because Singapore, as a host, can provide the proper security. They're also basically Switzerland of Asia. They don't pick sides. And they do have diplomatic relations with North Korea, one of the few countries that does. But also with Kim Jong Un taking now his longest trip, foreign trip as chairman. And we could see someone standing at attention as if the president may arrive, so we're keeping an eye on that. Is there a sense that that perhaps Kim Jong Un, being in a country like Singapore, so rich in all of the international commerce here, does this give him a look at what the future of North Korea could be?
That's a very other good question or even remark. Singapore is a representative by excellence of what would be an Asian success economically. Obviously, China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, maybe deep inside, Kim is looking at those examples, but he knows very well that he will come from -50 to get to 0 in his own country. He needs the basics of infrastructure, of social society, of everything. But to get there, he needs to solve one important point, that his regime is guaranteed. Anything short of that, he's not going to go for. He's not going to go for reforms that would change the regime, at least at this stage. So that will be our guarantee to him. His guarantee to us is going to be the nukes.
Waleed, last question. What does your gut tell you about how this is going to play out the next day or two?
Well, I have a different view. I think most of the negotiations issues were already reviewed by both sides. We're not going to go to Singapore and speak with him not knowing what we're going to talk about. So most of it has been discussed and has been agreed on in terms of principle. Now, the details are important. The way he's going to declare it, the way we're going to accept it or not, that is going to be at play.
So are you saying, I lied when I said last question because we're expecting the president any moment, so we're going to go to him live in a second. But the president has been very careful in recent days, you know, Waleed, in lowering expectations. Say, hey, folks, it's just round one. I just want to start a dialogue. Is that a public posture when, as you suggest in private, they've actually been working out perhaps a lot more of the details than they've let on?
I mean, the visits that took place into North Korea by Mr. Pompeo and by other officials coming to the United States, those have reviewed many of the issues. In my view, of course, I don't have the exact details of these matters, but I think that the president is cautious, and he's right to be cautious, because we really don't know how this is going to be declared, but we know what are the subjects, or what the subjects are going to be.
All right, Waleed Phares joining us in the wee hours there on the East Coast as it's just after noon here in Singapore. Waleed, no matter what time of day it is, we appreciate your analysis as always.
Thank you, Ed.